This Stasis Titan build carried me through a solo flawless minus 15 Grandmaster Lost Sector. This build is also going to give us infinite healing, battlefield control, infinite 60% damage reduction, infinite ammo, instant melee recharge, as well as an offensive mode and a defensive mode to combat. Also, I want to give a special shout out to Don Lewis 427 for challenging me and making a Titan build that did not use a Praxic blade. Now, as always on this channel, we'll be testing a few things: survivability, damage output, and timeliness. Timeliness meaning, can we complete these missions in a reasonable amount of time, since, if you're like me, you do have responsibilities outside of the game. Now, without further ado, if you're ready to forcefully have your enemies chill, let's get into the video. Our subclass today is the one and only Stasis Behemoth. When I first played Beyond Light on my Hunter, I instantly fell in love with Stasis, and it is still to this day my favorite subclass. For our super, we are running Glacial Quake because it's our only option, but with the new updates to Stasis, this thing actually puts out some serious damage. Our main use out of this super is when it's active, we're going to have infinite melee charges like when we're running Prismatic. For our melee, we're using Shiver Strike, which is also our only melee option. But with the recent updates to this thing, we get back 80% of our melee charge if we whiff the attack. However, in this build, we're probably going to end up using the normal melee for movement purposes. Our actual melee is going to end up being the Howl of the Storm aspect, which we'll get into later. Our grenade choice is going to be the Glacial Grenade to give us instant stasis crystals, which, when shattered, is going to give us a few things from the stasis shards it produces. When collected in this build, they're going to give us armor charge, health back, damage reduction in the form of frost armor, and melee energy, all thanks to a few pieces. Our class ability is going to end up being the Rally Barricade solely for its cooldown, but thanks to our exotic, our barricade is going to be replaced with the Stasis Freeze Burst. Moving on to our aspects, our first aspect is going to be Tectonic Harvest. Now what this does is when we shatter a stasis crystal or frozen target, we're going to spawn stasis shards, which will give us both melee energy and frost armor. Our second aspect is going to be Howl of the Storm. This aspect is going to be our offensive form to this build, allowing us to charge at enemies headlong Titan style. This aspect will turn our melee into a slide and stasis consecration uppercut, causing a wave of stasis crystals to form out and freeze everything in front of you. And thanks to the new updates to this aspect, Howl of the Storm now gives us a second melee charge. Now, so far without any of the fragments, if we shatter our stasis crystals created by our grenade or melee slide, we will be getting enough stasis shards back to give us at least one full melee charge so we can keep on sliding. For our fragments, we're going to be running the following: Whisper of Fissures, which is going to increase the size and damage burst of our stasis crystals for frozen targets; Whisper of Rime, which is going to increase our frost armor count from 5 to 8 and makes frost armor last longer; Whisper of Rending, which causes our primary ammo weapons to one-shot our stasis crystals in frozen targets; Whisper of Conduction, which causes nearby stasis shards to track to us. Without these fragments, this build is already highly functional, but with these fragments, you're going from functional to explosive. Now, there is one fragment that can be swapped depending on your playstyle. If you opt out of the defensive style, you can swap out Whisper of Rending for Whisper of Charge, which will boost grenade regen on stasis crystal shatters. For our exotic armor piece, we're running the Icefall Mantle. This exotic has been so much fun to play and has made Stasis Titan all but unstoppable. With this exotic, we are getting a new class ability that, when activated, will give us frost armor and freeze everything around us. Also, whenever we get frost armor, we will get a small burst of healing for every stack. And finally, when we have a stasis super equipped, rapid stasis final blows will give us frost armor and in turn, more healing. Now, with our class ability, normally you'll be given 5 stacks of frost armor, but with Whisper of Rime, you are now getting 8 stacks. Our exotic weapon is going to be the Wicked Implement. Now, I've seen a lot of things saying this exotic is low tier, not as useful as others, and so on and so forth. I get it. It's a scout rifle that doesn't do a lot of damage outright. However, I will say this. Before I started this channel, this was the exact build I used to solo the Grasp of Avarice dungeon that gives Gallahorn. And this rifle came in clutch so much that I refused to take it off. The only thing I could fathom replacing it with is probably Winter's Guile, but I don't have that glaive yet, so I haven't been able to test it. What this exotic does is rapidly landing precision hits will slow enemies. Now, how slow works is kind of like Scorch. If you keep applying slow stacks, your target will eventually freeze. With its intrinsic perk, if we collect a stasis shard, either from itself or from our subclass, it will refill the magazine. With the catalyst though, instead of just refilling the magazine, it's going to end up overflowing it, oftentimes to about 40 rounds. But wait, there's more. It does not say this on the gun itself, but Wicked Implement is a rapid-fire auto-frame scout rifle. Now, all this means is that if we're getting stasis crystals back, you can stand afar and just keep firing your Wicked Implement non-stop, full auto, freezing and slowing everything you hit. Now, with this exotic, this is going to be our more defensive form, where you stand from a distance and slow and freeze enemies while chucking a grenade every now and then to cause burst damage by shattering stasis crystals. For our stats, the main three you want to focus on are melee, super, and then weapon, so we can increase the damage output of our Wicked Implement. For our mods, we're running a hands-on and 2 harmonic siphons on our helmet, although I think the second harmonic siphon was an accident and I meant to put on a second hands-on, but either way it ended up working out. Our gauntlets, we're running triple heavy-handed to maximize ore generation on melee kills. Our chest piece, I'm running 3 elemental resistance mods, and remember, you can swap these out for whatever the element surge is or whatever damage type you're facing. For our boots, I'm running an elemental charge to give us armor charge every so often when we collect the stasis shards, and in this build, we are creating so many that armor charge doesn't really go away. We're also going to be running double stasis surge to boost our Wicked Implement damage. For our class item, I'm running a Reaper to get an orb after killing an enemy after popping our class ability, Powerful Traction to scoop nearby orbs on using our class ability, and Time Dilation to make our armor charge last longer. As mentioned before, this build is going to have 2 different forms of combat, offensive and defensive. Our offensive form is mainly focused on utilizing Howl of the Storm aspect by sliding in stasis consecration, freezing everything, and then later on shattering and exploding those crystals. Now, the good news is the crystals formed by Howl of the Storm melee actually scales in damage to your melee stat, as opposed to your grenade. For our defensive form, we utilize the freezing capabilities of Wicked Implement and our Glacial Grenade. This playstyle is pretty simple. Stay back away from combat, hold down the trigger, and unload your magazine into enemies while getting stasis shards created from Wicked Implement to reload. If you're needing to deal with a cluster of enemies from afar, throw your grenade, and thanks to Whisper of Rending, we can basically one-shot the cluster of frozen enemies and crystals to explode and get more stasis shards back. Now, occasionally I will pop my super, which will give us unlimited melee ability, in which I will slide, Howl the Storm, and heavy attack slam to cause more crystals to spawn out and burst the ones I created by our Howl the Storm slide, which, as you see by the boss damage, does huge DPS. Now, before we sign off, let's take a look at today's verse of the day. Our verse of the day today says, "And do not forget to do good and to share with others, for with such sacrifices, God is pleased." What this verse is showing us is a reminder of a few things. 1, God is our provider in all we have. Not our job, not our finances, not our resources, only the Lord. And 2, because he is our provider, he doesn't want us to just hog all the resources we can to ourselves. Because also remember, all the things we have won't be going with us when our time comes. With that said, thank you all so much for your support in helping me build this channel, and thank you all so much for pushing this channel to 100 subscribers. You all have blown me away by showing me your trust and dedication by subscribing to this channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss more awesome solo builds. And comment down below what build you want to see next. This is SGD signing off, and remember, it's fun to play games, but more fun to be with your family. Thanks for watching.